In one of my first videos, in fact, I think it was the first video, I stood right here. I'm going to show you this view. And I said, I don't think there's a better place to ride a motorcycle. What an awesome day. Well, I got a lot of people commenting on that. Most of them were telling me that, you know, Florida doesn't have any good roads. I don't disagree with that, but I didn't say these were great roads. I said this was a great place to ride. Let's get into that. I know what you're thinking, that I have lost my mind. I mean, how can a guy who grew up just a stone's throw away from places like Tail of the Dragon, Cherahall Skyway, and Natchez Trace Parkway possibly think Florida has anything even remotely resembling a great place to ride? Well, to tell you the truth, I had to ask myself that same question, and in some ways I'm still waiting on my own answer. But I guess when you get right down to it, it's all about priorities and what really matters. Everything else is just emotional noise. So I guess the real question is, what makes us change our priorities, and is that a good thing? When I was growing up and first started riding a motorcycle, I learned a lot of lessons the hard way. One of the lessons I learned is that motorcycling requires your undivided attention, especially when you are learning to ride. I think that is because when we're learning to ride, we have no muscle memory, no built-in roadmap of balance, control, throttle application, and 100 other things we've got to get right. Every detail of what we do must happen on time, in order, and without hesitation. But when all of these things start to come together for us and we begin to ride with confidence, it's like we've discovered our superhuman side hidden within us. All other forms of human endeavor become meaningless to a burgeoning motorcyclist. It is one of life's most powerful natural drugs. It's no wonder that these types of challenges to our ability give us some kind of endorphin rush that becomes our focus when we ride. And sooner rather than later, we want more. It might just be that this continual process of raising, then meeting the challenge becomes so deeply ingrained into our neural processes that we get to the point that this, and only this, is what we associate with riding a motorcycle. Now maybe it was the way things were, or maybe it was just me, but for the first 5 to 10 years of riding, the thought of riding without getting dirty, sliding, jumping, wheelies, or some other form of competitive riding was foreign to me. I mean, the idea that a motorcycle could be used simply to commute, to go places, or just relax never occurred to me until I was well past the point that it should have. I never really thought about it. But I guess it's not a single point in time as much as it was a gradual shift over an entire life. Now that I think about it, I did at some point start to think about motorcycling a little differently. Mark Twain is quoted as saying, "Too much of anything is bad, but too much good whiskey is barely enough." In my estimation and from my own experience, I think that perfectly encapsulates how I feel about motorcycling. I think at some point, the adrenaline rush just doesn't feel like it used to. Maybe it was the realization that I could, in fact, go places and commute with a motorcycle. And yes, maybe even take in the scenery. And of course, knowing what sliding on pavement feels like probably helped to draw me out of my thrill-seeking on every ride attitude. Getting older brings out a lot of stuff in us we never knew we had in the first place. Over time, we get new eyes, and the ways we saw things before begins to shift, and we get a whole new perspective. It's like having a very good lens on a camera, where we can just open up the aperture and get a narrow focus on the subject, while all the rest of the world around sinks into a soft bokeh that just serves to drive our attention deeper into the subject. Now everything takes on a new look. Maybe this is what it means to have laser focus. As we age, we start heading in different directions and seeking satisfaction and meaning in our life that were not part of our youth. As a motorcyclist, this opens up whole new avenues of excitement and adventure. For me, getting older didn't mean that I gave up seeking a little adrenaline rush every now and then. It just means that now, it's not the only reason I ride. When I was younger, riding was like a black and white picture. It had no color. It was binary. All go or no go. Either I got the adrenaline rush or I didn't ride. Now, at least for me, riding has become more of a tool I use to facilitate my happiness and well-being. In my first video, I said a motorcycle was an escape mechanism, a mental health parachute, and a life's problems ejection seat all rolled into one. Well, I don't think I could say that any better now. As I got older, I found the challenges of life and the realization of how little time we have left makes some of life's simplest pleasures much more desirable than they ever were before. When I was young, I sort of felt I was never going to get old. Sure, I knew I was going to get old, but I always thought it would be me, just in an older version of myself, whatever that means. But of course, that's not how it works. As we age, not only do we change on the outside, but our thinking and especially our priorities change too. Where once I wanted to ride a trail a little faster or stay on the back wheel a little longer, now I just seek to smell an ocean breeze as I glide up US 1 tasting the salty air, to feel the heat of the sun beat down on a perfect afternoon, and just for a fleeting moment step away from the emotional noise of life and just be in the moment. Maybe have a sit and just stare at the motorcycle and reminisce about life in quiet solitude, or watch a rocket leave the launch pad and feel it rumbling as it hurtles into the sky. These are the priorities I seek now, and the fact that I can do it on my motorcycle, well, that's just icing on the cake. I don't look at aging as some metaphor for slowing down. To me, it's more like I've begun to expand my view and widen my horizons to experience things I love in a new way. I think the memories of riding in my youth are much more important to me than trying to recreate them now on a motorcycle. To me, those days were priceless. Instead, I find it much more fulfilling to create new motorcycling memories using my new focus and priorities. And those old memories, I'll just keep weaving them into these videos. Hey guys, I really appreciate you watching. And we'll see you in the next video.